Hello, it's Michael Molthan, and welcome to the Into the Rock Show, where we have inspirational people with inspirational stories, and we got a good one for you today. I don't know if I've ever opened up and said, we got a bad one for you today. So just subscribe to this channel, click like, share it out, but this is going to be a horrible show. No, I don't know if I'll ever open up that way, but Fox News, DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, local news anchor, traffic reporter, the world famous, the household name of Dallas, Texas, Chip Waggoner.
Now I feel pressure. Thank you, Michael. Good morning. How are you?
How'd you like that opening?
That was good. Thank you. It's an honor to be with you today.
Well, it's an honor to have you, and I'm so glad that we met. Why don't you share with our audience how we met? It was really cool.
And so it really was. I was going to be going to a church function, and before that church function even started, I found out about the speaker, and that speaker happened to be you. And you came to church on a Sunday here in early summer and spoke to our church, and the response to your words were just off the chain. And I can't tell you how many people in our church body were really blessed by what you had to say and what you had to share. And it's really helped me in my just refocusing and just my daily walk to make sure that I'm living in the moment. Because just as you mentioned in our church service, when you're out of living in the moment, that's when Satan can start to attack you, whether you get stuck in the past or stuck in the future. And for me, more often than not, and it's part of what we'll talk about today, I got stuck in the past a lot because of some of the circumstances we went through as a family.
And what's interesting, and thank you for those kind words. I received that. I really appreciate you. You know, our platform is to remove the stigma of addiction and to stop focusing on addiction, but why the addiction. And this is the shows that I love. These are the people I love to connect with, that they don't do drugs. They don't do alcohol. I mean, that just blows them away, the behaviors that I did. But the connection was there. It's like, wow, he's right. Everyone's an addict. You know, we started seeking these visible things to fix our invisible problems: work, power, success, money. I gotta do everything right. We put that pressure, especially as a man, put that pressure on ourselves. And that's what's so beautiful about our connection. And that's who we want to connect with, is people who, that's how we remove the stigma, is that everyone is an addict.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing that I found going through our journey that we'll get into is the illusion that I have control over things. I have no control over things. God is in control of everything. And when you start to get that out of whack, anything that you get out of whack, it doesn't matter what it is: drugs, alcohol, sex addiction. It can be even stuff like gaming addictions, gaming addictions, anything like that. Anything where you're looking for an escapism. What are you trying to do, and what are you trying to accomplish? And the way I explain it to the kids in my Sunday school class, if this is me and this is God, the way it's got to work, or it doesn't work in your life, is God has to be first. When you put anything before God, it doesn't matter what it is, anything before God, things start to fall apart. And whenever you think that, oh, I'm in control, it's about me, that's when you're going to get in trouble. So that fight is happening all the time because we as humans are selfish, self-centered, sinful in just what we have to go through because of our sinful nature. And thank God for grace. Thank God for mercy, and that ability to us to go to God when we do mess up and put ourselves first, to sit there and say, no, I messed up. God, I want to get back to this. I want to get back to this. And what we have found in our journey, and I get a little emotional about it, sorry, is that He is faithful, and He will make all things new.
Right.
all things new. That's again, all things new. Now, does that mean that we want to just be addicted to being me first because we know that he'll make all things new? Absolutely not. Because if we're doing that in the wrong order, we can't be the light that God's called us to be, because you're literally blocking God out when you do that. That's the deal when it comes to God and his free will, that he gives us the free will to choose to make him first.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else falls into place, like I said earlier. When you don't, it's not going to work no matter how hard you try.
Hey, I can testify to that. That's exactly right. And I've said this before, is that God will allow us to have all the control we want, for everything to get completely out of control, for us to hit our knees, to turn to him, to realize we never had control in the first place. Right.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
So, so Fox News traffic, well, and we're going to get into your journey, but the day in life of Chip Waggoner, and how long have you been at Fox News?
So I've been at Fox News for 28 years now. And for the first 12 years, it was quite the adventure. And the reason I say it that way is because my assignment was in the helicopter, and I was the breaking news reporter. And the way that we had our cockpit set up, if you will, my pilot flew and kept us safe. My job was to be the reporter. I ran the camera. I was my own engineer. I had tape decks to edit on, and all those jobs were rolled into one. And we had so many amazing adventures with police chases, 5-alarm fires, and all kinds of things in between. And that was just a tremendous job. I feel like God really equipped me for that job in a unique way, in that when I was in college, my focus was trying to become a play-by-play announcer for sports. And I actually was an anchor before I started at Fox. And I think that unique ability of painting a picture with my words verbally, while then using the visual elements of being up in the helicopter, was something that just allowed me to create this unique niche. And then from there on, create a place at Fox that I'd like to think is kind of unprecedented. To be in a market for a really long time doing what I'm doing is most certainly a testament to God using my abilities and putting me where I can be the light he's called me to be, and do it in such a way where every time I'm doing my job, it's not about me. It's about serving those people that are tuning in every day, so that I can help them in whatever way that I can in that newscast, whether it's a day like a rainy one on a Monday morning where you have 18-wheelers flipping over and shutting down highways, or maybe it's something else where you have weekend road work or other things like that. And sometimes, unfortunately, it can be breaking news stories as well, where I am called upon to still do that, but I just am doing it from a studio view instead of the aerial perspective.
So let's go back in time, the aerial perspective, and these. I mean, you're on top of high-speed chases. I mean, what's one of the most incredible high-speed chase that you remember covering?
I think that one of the best ones that come to mind for me is a situation that happened that turned into a unique opportunity for us. And I'll try to explain it as succinctly as possible. Our scanners went off, and the Ellis County Sheriff's deputies. Ellis County is just south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And in the small town of Palmer, an officer was trying to make a stop. And when he got out of his car to approach the vehicle, the person took off. And a pursuit then started up. And it was in the summer time, which was a blessing. The suspect went into the Palmer High School parking lot. And when he got into it, he turned around, set up his vehicle. And when the sheriff's deputies at this point had taken over this whole thing, came into the parking lot, the person opened fire. One of them happened to strike one of the tires, rendering that vehicle useless. And then that suspect left that parking lot and was last seen moving on country roads. So when we got down to the scene, we literally went in where all of the deputies were set up in the edge of what was basically maize fields, corn, maize. Okay. And it was the summertime. So it was at its zenith, its highest point. So the stalks are 5, 6, 7 feet in the air.
And you're in your helicopter, right?
Right. But we come and land
Okay.
in an open field next to that where all of the deputies were. We get a description of the vehicle, and then we take off and we start looking for it for them, because at the time they did not have an aerial ship to go and do that. And my pilot, an absolutely amazing guy, born to fly a helicopter. His name is David Webb, and he now flies in Saudi Arabia. But anyway, we found him within 5 minutes. We found him just literally on these dirt roads driving around. And what my pilot did was that he would, what would a best term would be called bird dogging. So as the guy is moving this direction, and we want to get him to go back towards the sheriff's deputies, which again he can't see because of all the maize fields. He would bird dog him and get over on this side so that he would then turn and start going a different direction. We obviously then establish a signal, and then we start broadcasting the breaking news. I fill in everyone watching with what I just told you. And at the very end of this police chase, I sit there and say, as I have a close-up shot of the individual, I say, okay, and I start zooming out slowly to kind of paint the picture. And I just say, okay, this police chase is going to end in about 20 seconds. And as you look up in the upper right-hand part of your screen, you can see why. And there's literally a dozen troopers set up in their vehicles, all ready to go, guns drawn. And as the individual comes around the corner, I just shut up and just let it all play out. As the guy comes around the corner, completely freaks out, has a yard sale, spins his vehicle out, comes to a stop, and it's over. And so that was, again, a really awesome story that just sticks in my head, because not only were we doing our job, but we also actually got to help law enforcement in taking a bad actor down.
Wow. And so how long did you do helicopter reporting?
I was in the helicopter for 12 years. 12 years. And a lot of people think, and if you're watching this from the local area, a lot of people know that in 2007, I was involved in a helicopter crash.
Come on, that's where I was leading to.
Yeah, but then I actually flew for about another 14 months after that. So it was in the fall of 2008 during the recession that the ship was put in mothballs. It was supposed to be for 6 months, but it just proved to be more cost effective to move me into the studio full time.
So walk me through this national news story of this famous helicopter crash that you were in and obviously survived. Walk me through this.
Okay, so I have to kind of tread lightly, but I will kind of just lay out the nuts and bolts.
What was it like? What did it feel like? Were you scared? I mean,
right. Yeah. So the first thing I need to just establish is, before I even took the job, I had never been in a helicopter before in my life. Ever. And it was only when we got into the finals, as far as like interviewing for this job, that they took us up to see if we could cut it or not. And I passed with flying colors. And I think God played a really big part of that, because I just have always had a sense of peace and a sense of trust. And one of the things that they did during that interview time was they created a scenario where the pilot made a lot of very abrupt moves without telling me at all, to see how I would react to it. And they were amazed at just how calm and quiet I was. And they asked me why I was. And I said, well, God created you to fly this helicopter. And so I trust you know what you're doing. So why should I waste my breath when something crazy happens, screaming at you, going, something bad's happening? You would know that something bad is happening.
right.
Oh, I'm just going to shut up. And that was an intangible, apparently, with this job, because when a helicopter pilot does have an issue pop up, they have approximately 5 seconds to figure out what just happened and what kind of steps can be taken to give us a chance to survive.
Wow.
If 4 of those 5 seconds going, oh my gosh, we're going down, what are you going to do? Our chances just became 0.
Right.
Going back to the day that this incident happened, I had been with the helicopter pilots, I had learned what emergency landings felt like as I prepared myself for the job once I got the job. And so when the incident happened in the summer of 2007, it was almost like all of the practice went into place. So you felt this big boom hit on it felt like a hit on the back of our ship because we just suddenly lose power. And the ship yaws hard to the right and then kind of levels out, and the bells and whistles are going off. And all I remember doing is simply pointing down to open fields in the area that I was at. And my pilot then started what's called an auto rotation process. And in my mind, the whole thing, especially our landing, which was a hard landing, we literally fell apart. It felt like we bounced and went a couple hundred yards. It's like everything in the whole deal was in slow, and it was just that whole feeling. In reality, we only went from where we hit the ground to where we ended up about 60 feet.
Wow.
There were a lot of variables against us, but the bottom line was we had no engine power. The pilot had put it in neutral. So think about your car. Let's say your engine was let's say the governor was failing, and so like the gas is stuck. So you're still going faster and faster and faster. The only way you can remedy that is by shifting from drive into neutral, right?
Wow.
And so, but in this case, since you don't have an engine, you're putting it into neutral because you need that remaining energy in the blades to create an air pocket. So when you landed, you would hopefully come down like that. For us, though, he did everything possible. Instead of landing flat, we did land flat, but instead of coming in and doing this move like that, it was more hard in at approximately 45, 50 miles an hour. And
were you injured?
I had one of the discs in my neck knocked out of place, but we were able to get it back in without surgery. So that was a blessing. A lot of superficial injuries. The neck injury, now that I'm a lot older, let's face it, we get older and you start to lose flexibility. So it is becoming a factor as I get older, but I have.
And the pilot?
And the pilot had no issues.
Wow.
We did
Praise God.
Yeah, we did have someone in the back seat. In the way we would defray the cost of a helicopter is you frequently would see radio stations and TV stations co-fund.
Right.
So I had an individual in the back seat who was doing radio for a couple of radio stations in Dallas. She did sustain some significant injuries, but fortunately survived them all. And
great.
And it was just an amazing feat by our pilot. So yeah.
Well, that's cool that you've got that skin on the wall that you survived a helicopter crash. So not many people.
Yeah.
Not many people could say that.
It's one of those things that also served as a ministry opportunity afterwards. So, for example, when I would be invited to speak at a school, especially in those first 2 to 3 years after it, because it was so fresh in people's minds, especially children, in the career day, invariably a kid would ask, "Were you scared?" And my answer could be, "No, I wasn't scared, and here's why." And be able to share my faith at that point. And in a public setting, there are no rules against that, since I was invited in as a guest and someone asked me that question. So it was just this really neat.
Beautiful.
Again, ministry opportunity. Don't know how God's going to use those words that I said to all those kids at that time, but I hope that it ended up pointing them in the right direction.
Absolutely. It can't hurt. You know, Chip, we see you for 28 years. You're on Good Day, Texas is right? Good Day.
It's Good Day. We just call it Good Day.
Just good.
Good Day Dallas, which was kind of a weird thing because it's like we live in Dallas Fort Worth and it's a really like compound complex community, right? And so after about a year and a half of it being called Good Day Dallas, they dropped the Dallas. So it's just Good Day.
Right. So you got Good Day, and when you show up to work as your colleagues do, I mean, you got Brandon Todd, you got Lauren or Laura.
Lauren, yeah, you're right.
How do you say her last name?
Lauren Prisbel.
Prisbel.
Yeah.
And then you got Evan on weather. Right. And you know, y'all been together a long time. Are y'all close? Are y'all close off the screen?
Yeah. What I like the most about our journey. So when I started at Fox in 1996, the station had only been a Fox affiliate for less than 2 years, and we were just trying to build an audience. And I first was honored, to be one of those people chosen for that. Secondly, I think as a result of us, a lot of us has been there for a long time. Brandon's been there for 25 years. Evan's been there about the same amount of time. Lauren's our newcomer, but she's been there for 15. But I think that the great thing about it is when you're building something, and with all these younger people at the time, what they told us, the news director and the general manager, was, we chose you because we think that you're authentic, and we want you to be authentic and be yourself, and just do your job and do it the best of your ability. And it just gave you this freedom in the news business, which is rare, to fail. So I loved to dare greatly, especially in that helicopter. I would try to pull off some crazy things in order to bring the product to the viewer. And it was because I wanted to get the most information out. I don't care what I look like on the air. If I look like I'm unorganized or disheveled for a minute, because I'm trying to literally get something that just happened 5 seconds ago, located, confirmed, and to you. And that attitude prevails through our fabric, and you just have a lot of authentic people, and I think that shows through our product. And I'm just, again,
it does. And another thing that shows with the vulnerability, I love that you say that, because as a viewer, we feel that. I mean, just for example, this morning, you talked about there was a death on the highway. I could really feel it. It just wasn't another death, but I felt it as you were delivering the news, and it was real, and you didn't even realize you were doing it. This is a sad day for this family. I mean, it was, and all that. And that's,
I try to respect that. I try to respect people. I try to respect anybody coming to get information from us and meet them where they're at. And sometimes it's a fun, happy day, and some days it's not. Today was
and it really shows, and we feel that as a viewer, and that's much appreciated, and with the entire team, and that you truly care. You truly care, and delivering the news and the traffic to help people. But when you show up to work, there are days that we have to, it's a challenge because things aren't going good at home. And there was a moment in time where your faith was really challenged while you're doing the news within your family. And I want to talk about that, and want to introduce, your family to the world, and man, how his faith has increased your faith. Walk me through that.
So I would be happy to, and I hope I won't get too long-winded. So in the year 2000, my wife and I found out that we were going to have our first child. And it was early on that the doctors noticed something that was unusual. And we found ourselves in a situation where instead of just having a normal set of doctors, we were sent to high-risk pregnancy doctors. Mm-hmm. And what they had discovered in the first trimester is that there was what they call an omphalocele, which is going to be a hole in the abdominal wall that is formed. Sometimes it's not very big at all. Sometimes it's significant. But they weren't sure, and they wouldn't know until later on toward the end of the pregnancy. And it was about 2 weeks before our son was born that we went to see how bad this was going to be. And in this in utero MRI afterwards, I knew that we were in trouble, because all the radiologists in the room or in the area were literally calling each other over to see the results. And the head of radiology of this hospital at the time took it upon themselves to relay what they had seen and not let the doctors decipher what they're looking at, who are the specialists.
Hmm.
And during that meeting, the radiologist said, here's the deal. You might have been told that this was going to be, something that's not potentially a huge deal. It's catastrophic.
Hmm.
Everything from in the middle of his torso down to the bottom of his torso, everything is on the outside of his body.
Hmm.
And he only has one kidney. And there are other things that are it's scrambled eggs. It's scrambled eggs. And the last words that the radiologist said was, if I were you, I would go to Kansas right now and I would abort this. And I apologize for my dog who loves to hang out with me for the
That's okay.
We're good, Piper. Okay. Anyway, so the last
abortion was an option that was suggested to you by the staff.
Right. And in Kansas, it was still legal to do that, even that late into a pregnancy. And I would love to sit there and tell you right now that I immediately rejected that. But it struck a chord immediately in my soul, because the sinful nature of me came up with every excuse why that would be a great idea. You're right. He's going to be in deep trouble right from the get-go. He might not even survive surgery. And even if he does survive surgery, he's going to have all kinds of challenges. And because he has all these challenges, he's going to be mad at life. He's going to be mad at God. He's going to be mad at his disposition. And you know what? He's going to end up probably being somebody that's going to be picked on by bullies and stuff like that at school. And he's just going to get ridiculed. And yes, this is the right thing to do. We need to go. And as I'm going through this and literally going down, as the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger, God stepped in. And in my head, there is this voice of, who am I? And I had an out-of-body experience where I was literally in a conversation and it was God on the other end. And he wouldn't respond until I gave him a response to who am I? And I finally said, well, you're God. You're the creator of all things. You've made all things. You are in control of all things. You make all things for your glory. And then the next question was, what about you? What do I say about you? Well, you say that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And you say that you knew me before I was born, and your angels rejoice over me. What makes your child any different? Wow. And so I was really thankful that God stepped in right then and there. Right. I knew the right thing to do, but I didn't know that was the right thing to do.
Right.
God,
yeah. How human of you.
Wants me to get ready to go through right now. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I expected. This is supposed to be great and awesome, and this is going to be a minor little issue, and we're going to get it fixed, and he's never going to even know, and this is going to be... But you're asking me to just go into something that I have no idea. The odds of a child, by the way, born with the condition that our son has is approximately 1 in 400,000. And if you were to take that child and put them in a third world country, they would not nurture that child at all and let it. So he's kind of a pioneering kind of a kid on that to boot. But anyway, back to the story. I obviously got the stuff. We left and we just fell on our knees. We don't get this. We don't understand this. Hey, God, I think this really sucks. But you know what? I also thank you and praise you because you're allowing me to have this conversation with you. Now, help me get over myself and help me be the light you're calling me to be even in this situation. And I'd love to tell you right now that right from then on out, I was just this happy guy and I did a perfect job as parent. And the answer really truly is that it was a long, long process where I kept trying, even in these difficulties, instead of relying on God with all my heart, all my soul, all my mind, and all my strength, I kept trying to
Play God.
giving up and just isolating myself and retreating into something that would medicate me and my wounds from this and not be as proactive as I needed to be and be the light that I told God that I was going to be.
Wow.
What I love about our Savior is that he still redeems our failures. And I am now down the roadway quite a ways. If you've watched the journey in locally, then you know our son's now graduated from college.
Yeah.
I have every right to be mad at life, mad at God, mad at his disposition. I have never met a kid that is more comfortable in their own skin than my son. He comes into a room and he's beaming with this, I'm just happy to be here, smile. And he knows he has challenges and he knows he has these things, but he's like, you know what? This is the way God made me. This is my normal. And I'm going to make the most of whatever the situation is. The idea of bullying. There was a person at our church when we were in prayer groups before Benjamin was born who said this following prayer. Said, Lord, please bring Wendy and Chip, my wife, and me to a place where they can raise their child and the people around them will see past Benjamin's challenges that are easily seen and see the precious person that is inside his soul that's unseen initially. And when it was time for his first day of kindergarten, I was really, really nervous about that whole time because I was, here it is. Remember those things that I was thinking about at birth, mad at life, mad at God, gonna get picked on, gonna get bullied. And so I was just waiting by the door. I had the honor of being able to pick up our kids from school because of the morning show. I could never drop them off. I could sure pick them up, especially in that stage. Right. And I just had, fear playing in my mind. And you talk about this all the time, that idea of fear of what could have happened and getting off on a wrong step. And I was doing it full bore. He's going to come out. He's going to be crying and screaming, why'd you make me go to the school? They're all terrible and awful. Ah! The door opens up and he is just beaming, big smile on his face. He is not really fast, but at least at the time was ambulatory in a relatively normal way. And he's just with all of his energy just coming at me, ready for a big hug. And I get down and I'm like smiling, all right. And as he's coming closer and closer to me, I kind of look past him, something catches my eye, and it's a kid that's running towards his mom. And he is staring at the AFO braces. So these are braces around your legs that help give you stability so that you do have the ability to kind of walk.
Right.
And I was like, oh, here we go. This is going to be awful. And as I'm kind of continuing to I'm still kind of seeing what's going to happen over there. And the kid runs into his mom's arms and he says, hey, mom, where can I get some cool things like that kid has on? I think they're really awesome. Can I get a pair of those?
Wow.
God providing, God answering prayer. 6-ish years after that prayer was first uttered. And he will make all things good. He will make all things good. So that was another inspiration. And you'd think, okay, now Chip is going to be really good. He's going to be God first, right? We're going to get it in that right mode. No, I still kept fighting throughout the child rearing years. And when Benjamin was about fifth grade. He said, "Hey, I want to do Boy Scouts." I'm like, "Yeah, no way, dude. You can't hardly nothing. Yeah, the swimming test is going to be impossible. You don't have use of your lower legs. I mean, it's just going to be a train wreck." And I literally, God didn't have to full bore like interrupt me, but it was just kind of like, since I had that one experience, I could hear as I was going, "No, it's starting to come up again." And I'm like, wait. Hey, if this is what you want to try to do, great. Let's just see what it's all about. And dadgummit, if Benjamin didn't become an Eagle Scout. And his project was to build a 9-hole Frisbee golf course at a place called Camp John Mark, which is a camp that he went throughout school in the summers. That's a camp for kids with special needs. It's a unique camp. In that 1 week, you will have kids that have similar challenges like Benjamin with spina bifida and other issues. But then the next week, a whole new set of kids come in. And all of these kids might be burn victims. The week after that, the next set of kids would be all kids that have sickle cell and dealing with that, finding out they're not alone, how to deal with their issues. Next week, it'll be kids with cancer. And for Benjamin to be able to have contributed something of significance there to honor that place that was so near and dear to his heart with his Eagle Project was really neat. And again, just kids came by the droves, drove all the way down to Meridian, Texas, where that camp is, and helping out, making it happen. And
wow.
Anyway, Benjamin has just continued to shine, and now is out in the real world, still doing his thing, and still, no matter what he's doing, glorifying God with all that he has. And
wow. So the takeaway.
Yeah.
What's that?
So I just to finish up, God put it up in my heart to write a book. I've finished the rough draft, figuring out how to self-publish it. That's been a process, but I hope to have something soon. There's a lot of people.
I have read through it, and I highly suggest that you get that published because it's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. Chip Waggoner with Fox Morning Good Day News here in Dallas, Texas. Just recently, just sharing about his son, and my takeaway on that when I hear you talk about that, his gift is he's a leader. He is a leader. I saw a piece on it. We opened the show up with a piece on him, and he doesn't see himself the way that we see him. Not at all. He sees himself as the way God sees him, and you can feel that. And I also talk about this on the show a lot, is that he is a perfect example of true acceptance. Okay? True acceptance has absolutely no resentments. None. That is true acceptance. And he does it and doesn't even realize that he's doing it, because he does not see what we see. And I fully believe that when I see him. And I want to compliment you and your wife that he's so blessed to have two great parents that listen to God and not the world or the culture. Because this topic here is that you focused on his life, not your life. That's the beauty about this, is that you and your wife focused on his life. And how human of you, we got out of self. We're being selfish when we start doing this stuff, all this stuff, but you did it, and look what happened.
Right. And again, I'd love to say that we just did it with flying colors. I think my wife did it with flying colors. I really honestly think my wife did it with flying colors. Me, I think I fought it a lot, where we would have another unexpected hospital visit. So our son has basically had about 18 surgeries in his lifetime. Through, some of them obviously early on, and then some of them were emergency situations. And I would think about, okay, here's another emergency hospital, visit. Okay, here's another stay in the hospital for a week while I still have to be on the air doing my job and being, day 3 of day 4, sleeping on a hospital cot, and just going, God, whining. I whine. I'm a whiner. I was a whiner. and just, come on, like, have we suffered enough? And then I have to just, and again, after I get all that out of my system, it is amazing how God just gently reminds me, yeah, I get it. I got you here for a reason. I made you for a purpose. And I made you for this purpose because I know that you can handle it. You might not think you can handle it, but you can handle it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate him and his just his consistency, right? God is God. He's not changing. He is never going to change. We go all over the place, but he doesn't change. And so he can sit there and just calmly say, hear ya. This is the way. Not to steal the Star Wars line, but
right. I've realized today, Chip, is that when I'm worried or I'm anxious, okay, I'm literally telling God this: hey, God, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, that is what it is. You don't know what you're doing. And then it's like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And that's when he'll say, okay, well, I'll let you have it. Until we have that awakening and all that. What's your son doing today?
So he's working in the private sector. He's an account manager for a company, a publicly traded company, and he's enjoying his first job. But it is a first job, and so anybody who's had a first job knows that it's
Yeah.
it'll be challenging at times. But he's gaining that experience. I think he really that he needs, that he'll be able to then utilize to move forward. And he has some natural pullings toward the social media world, and then potentially getting his feet wet in that. And we'll just see how God leads him in the steps to follow.
Chip Waggoner, Fox 4 News, traffic reporter, up early in the morning, delivering the news and the traffic and getting us home safely and getting us to work and school safely. Chip, we appreciate you so much for being vulnerable and transparent, and sharing how you're seeing life today through God's perspective and not the world's, and not Chip's,
Definitely not mine. If the journey would have been according to what Chip wanted to do, it would have been ugly, and it would have been awful, and it wouldn't have been something that I would be proud of to offer to God and say, here's my offering to you of what I did with my. And I'm thankful that God intervened early, stuck with me to allow me to go on a journey that I didn't want to go on, to see the results that I could not have possibly found.
Wow. And that is seeing it through God's perspective.
Yeah. God's ways are so much better than our ways. God's thoughts are so much better than our thoughts. And there might be somebody watching this right now that's in the place where I was 20 something years ago. Going, yeah, right, whatever, dude.
What's your suggestion to that person that's watching?
I would honestly say that I, without a doubt, understand what you're going through in your soul, and that gut-wrenching feeling of having no control and not being able to comprehend how a God that is so awesome can have something like this occur in his creation, to create doubt, to create fear, to create all the ideas that follow after that. How can there be a loving God if he created something like this? How can there be something that's great that can come out of something as awful as I'm going through? And I would just finish by saying, if you look at how God works, and he promises that all things work together for the good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. What you have to understand is this life that we have is faster than that snap in the light of eternity. That God's main goal is to try to get as many people while they're alive to realize that God is who he says he is, and that Jesus is who he is, our Savior, the Savior, the one and only way, the one and only truth, the one and only life. And no one can get to the Father but through him. And so if he can use anything, including disabilities, to reach people for Christ, that's what he's going to do. And for Benjamin, his crown is going to be just off the chain of what he endured with his challenges. And when he's in his glorified body in heaven for eternity, which again is a lot longer than this, that's what I think God's trying to get through to all of us in those struggles. Don't get sucked into those things that we're going to use that's going to temporarily fix it, whatever it is. Trust on God. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and keep going back to that and not anything else. And I think you're going to be in a lot better place. And as Michael says here and everywhere, stay in the now. Stay in the now. Just keep walking.
That's right. The safest place in the world is right here, right now, because that's where God's at. That's where he's at, is right here, right now. Chip Waggoner, powerful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your friendship.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming and watching me get baptized. I mean, you made a special trip to come see me get baptized. That meant the world to me. I came out of the pool. There were a lot of people there. And right, I came and cleared my eyes off. I looked across and there you were. There you were in t-shirt and shorts. And that meant a lot to me to come out there to see that. And you just waved. And that meant a lot to me. I appreciate that. Hey, Chip, from all of us here at Into the Rock, there's something that I always say is that I got 3 words. It's got 8 letters and it's got one meaning. And that is, I love you. From all of us here, I love you too. From all of us here at Into the Rock, make it a great day.